F124 Driver Career Mode Season 2, Round Number 1, the Australian Grand Prix. Yes, it is time to get started with Season 2 of this Driver Career Mode. We are now, of course, driving for McLaren. We switched from Aston Martin, if you saw the previous video looking at the pre-season stuff. And this is R&D going into the start of this season. Aston Martin are actually the top car on paper, the team we left, but we are right behind them at McLaren, and Red Bull right there with us as well. It's then a bit further back till you get to Mercedes and Ferrari, who are pretty close to each other as well, but Mercedes actually ahead of Ferrari, and then just as before, the other 5 teams are way behind. Now Q1 here, so of course we won this race in Season 1. It is the one and only race we managed to win in Season 1. It was of course round 3 back then. So I had good high hopes for this one. As you can see, bottom right, we've got the red triangle saying that we've got some sort of issue with the car. DRS was broken this session, although I think it was shut closed, and thankfully didn't really play into being an issue at all, because as you can see, intermediate tires on for this session, and yeah, so no DRS was available anyway, so it didn't really make a difference. We were still 2/10 down on Perez though, P8 and P9 respectively for us. The big shock of Q1, Carlos Sainz out in Q1, P18, does not get through to Q2 in the Ferrari. That is a very disappointing result for him. He really should be, you know, up there. I mean, Ferrari is the 5th quickest team on paper, but you know, still right up there. So to not get through to Q2 at least is, yeah, quite disappointing. As you can see here in Q2, we are going for a better time. Purple through the middle sector, having a pretty good run at the moment. We're currently now down to P15 actually after our first run, because this is our second run in Q2, and we are currently in last place. But as we come out of the last corner, we're 3.5 seconds up, as you can see, because the track started drying out more throughout the session. We ended up going P6, still about 2/10, it's actually just over a 10th down on Perez though, so Perez doing a better job here than I expected. No real surprises out in Q2. Ocon makes it through to Q3. I guess the one beneficiary of Sainz going out of Q1 is Ocon to get through in the Alpine, the newly liveried Alpine, of course. And yeah, so you'll see all those new liveries today, although a lot of them are like lower down teams, so you probably won't see a lot from them. But anyway, we continue on here, and first lap of Q3 went pretty well. Ended up P2. You can see Lando Norris actually P1 in the Red Bull, so he's looking promising at his new team. Of course, Norris has gone to Red Bull from McLaren last season and is alongside Max Verstappen. Sergio Perez goes quickest. Everybody's pretty much going quicker here now. We are purple through sectors 1 and 2 though, so we're showing some good pace. Even though we're only half a tenth up on our best time, we're already down to P6. Piastri then goes quickest in the Aston Martin. As we head through the final couple of corners here, we're starting to make a little bit more time up in these last few corners. Just about a tenth and a half, around about 10.5, 2.5 tenths now, as we make quite a lot of room, quite a lot of pace up in the last few corners, and we're almost 3 tenths up on our best time. We cross the line. It's not pole position, unfortunately, but it is P2. We just about beat Sergio Perez there, only just. It's ridiculously close between us two. The top 3 all within a second, or within a tenth of a second, sorry. So it is very, very close between Piastri, myself, and Perez. Then it's Alonso, Hamilton. Norris beats Verstappen for the first time of asking at Red Bull. So this is the grid for the race. How will we do here in Australia for round 1 of season 2 of this F124 Driver Career Mode?
No more testing, no more practice. This is the real deal, and it's make or break here at round 1 of this year's Formula One World Championship. We go racing today then in the state of Victoria, where the drivers have 14 corners and 3.28 miles to navigate at an average lap speed of around 120 miles per hour. Close proximity of the barriers make accidents inevitable, and recent history shows us that a safety car is not at all out of the question. Before we begin, let's take a quick look at the grid lineup for today's race. Oscar Piastri lines up on pole position, and Shaw completes the front row. As we continue through the rest of the grid today, we have Perez, Fernando Alonso, Hamilton, Norris, Verstappen, Leclerc, Russell, Ocon, Albon, Magnussen, Bottas, Gasly, Stroll, Hulkenberg, Sargent, Sainz, Tsunoda, and Zhou Guanyu. It's almost time for those 5 red lights to go out then. Let's see who can prevail today.
Here we go, it's an Aussie on pole position with Oscar Piastri, and we are second place. It is a good place to start for this season. We get the season underway, and it's a decent start from us. It's not the best start from Piastri, and we are up the inside already going into turn 1, braking as late as we can, just about getting ahead of him, and we have had a great start to this first race of the season. We're up into P1 here at the Australian Grand Prix, the one and only race we won last season for Aston Martin. We're up into P1. It's an Aston Martin behind us. Perez had a pretty good start as well, but he's had to settle behind Piastri in P3. So now we're going to see if we can break away. Perez has actually already almost got a second gap, pretty much is a second now actually, to Hamilton, the car behind, up into 4th place. Norris in 5th. Verstappen's all the way down in 10th. He has not had a good start to this race. The defending drivers' champion not having a great start here, as Perez is already looking around the outside of Piastri round the banking, well not banking, but round the long kind of straight there into the fast left-hander. He's not been able to get past, of course, DRS not available as of yet, but we have managed to stay in the lead here, and that buffer is, the fight between those two is definitely helping us out in the early stages of this race. And as we come to the end of lap 1, we are going to lead this first lap, which is awesome. We have not done that a whole lot in this series, so to start the season, to start season 2 with leading lap 1 here in Australia is a very good thing. However, it's gonna be difficult to defend on this back straight here, especially because of how quick it is, because of not having a whole lot of DRS, and because of the car behind Piastri having DRS. He's going to get past me into that corner, and it's going to give him the double DRS as he heads down here as well. And I've got to try and defend a little bit from Piastri, who's actually from Perez, sorry, who's looking up the inside into the next corner, but we're not going to let our teammate pass. We really want to get on top of our teammate this season. We were beaten by Alonso last season. We want to beat Perez this season, and I thought it would be relatively easy, but he started off this season, in this first qualifying session at least, with a pretty good result. As we then go into here, we overtake Piastri once again. He tries to fight back into that next right-hander, but cannot, and we're going to stay ahead. We then have a very poor exit to the final corner, squirming all over the place. That's going to let Piastri have a go back at us down this front straight. To the outside he goes. We're going to try and hold the position though, give him room. He's up onto the curb. We've stayed ahead. He might try and go for a dive into the next corner here, though. We go defensive to the inside. He tries to go round the outside. We're going to sit up on the curb but stay on the track and keep ahead of Piastri, but I think this is just going to keep going back and forth. Max Verstappen in the newly liveried white Red Bull. It's kind of a commemorative livery for their final year with Honda. He's down in P10 trying to get past Esteban Ocon. He has not had a good start to this race. He definitely didn't start this far back, I don't think. Just hasn't had a good start, but it's now absolutely blitzed past Ocon, who's really gone very slow and has been overtaken by Stroll in the RB as well. So that's Verstappen moving up a position up into P9, but has a big gap to Albon up ahead. We're going to try and fight back from Piastri, who unfortunately, once again, we can't do anything about it. He's just going to blitz past us there and then blitz past us here as well. But I kind of have to let him go, because if I use up all my ERS, defend there, he's then just going to overtake me down into the next corner anyway. And, I want to at least have a bit of battery to keep Perez behind, because I don't have DRS in those moments. Next lap around, this just keeps happening. It's just a back and forth here. Fernando Alonso in P6, not having the best race in the world at the moment. He's at the back of this train, but it's going to get even worse for our former teammate from last season. He has an engine failure. I believe his first engine failure of this career mode. We had, what, 3, 4, I think, engine failures last season. Alonso didn't have any from what I remember, but first round of Season 2, he has a failure of his own. So there he goes. I mean, I guess that's the lack of engine failures last year catching up with him. Maybe it's a good thing we left Aston Martin, although we do still have the Mercedes engine in the McLaren. Next lap, a few laps later, I think, lap number 8, we're still trying to defend from Piastri. We just cannot shake these guys, and we're bringing everybody else along with us. Piastri just manages to dive up the inside of us before we go into the yellow flag zone. A little bit cheeky from Piastri there, but he does get the move just about fairly. But once again, it doesn't really matter. Once we get to this long straight here, we're just going to come straight back at him again. And although there's a lot of overtakes going on here for the lead, it's not the most exciting because it is literally just down a straight, overtake, next lap around, overtake, next lap around. It just kind of keeps happening. You'll see it once again here after we got past Piastri. Piastri once again back past us again, and it's just carrying on. And this is kind of now a 5-car group back to Lando Norris. Hamilton doing a very good job actually to stay there in P4 in the Mercedes, which on paper is quite a bit slower than you know, the Aston, the McLaren and the Red Bull. And then a bit of a bigger gap back to Leclerc, and then even bigger gap to Albon, who's actually moved up ahead of Russell at some point. I don't know how that happened. But anyway, yeah, we then get a pretty ballsy move around the outside of Piastri. We did that one rather late, and but made the move up, so that is good. Zhou Guanyu in the Sauber, currently running P19, way behind his teammate, and he's going to have an engine failure as well. So it's not just the Mercedes engines, it's the Ferrari engines too, going up in smoke. And Zhou Guanyu will retire from this first Australian Grand Prix. Sauber had a pretty good start to the season last season, but then massively fell off pretty quickly, whereas for Zhou this time around, he has a bad start from the very beginning. Once again, Piastri gets past us, and actually Perez is going to try and dive us here as well. We're just going to hang it around the outside once again. We really want to stay ahead of our teammate. We then come into the pits on lap 13, and here we go for our one and only pit stop onto hard compound tyres. It's very slow getting the rear right off, and that is a pretty slow pit stop for the team. That is going to cost us positions here, I think. We've tried to get a bit of an undercut on some other cars like Perez, Norris. I mean, not an undercut because we were already ahead of them, but you know, still kind of an undercut, I guess. We're trying to stay ahead of them by pitting the same, you know, before them. But unfortunately, we've actually come out behind Hamilton. I think it's only Hamilton and Piastri that really pitted on the same lap as us, so we've only lost out to Hamilton at the moment. But as we now head through on the next lap when everybody else has pitted as well, we're now down to P5 behind Norris, Hamilton, Perez and Piastri. So we're now at the back of that train that we were at the front of before. So we've got some work to do now to get back up at to the very front. So now it's Perez having a go at Piastri for P1 in this race. Can Sergio Perez, who didn't manage to even win a race last season with Red Bull, win a race this season? Well, he's at least going to lead for a lap here as he gets past Piastri, and now Sergio Perez, our teammate at McLaren, is up into the lead of the Australian Grand Prix. Verstappen's still trying to make his way through the order, but he is way, way back on this top 5 group that we're a part of. He's now caught up to Alexander Albon and is going to try and go for the move on the newly liveried Gulf Williams that Alex Albon is driving, who's in a very respectable position, by the way. Williams are kind of the top of that bottom group on paper, so if anyone's going to score points, it's probably going to be Albon in that car. We then go for a bit of an opportunistic move on Norris, dive up the inside, going into that fast left-hander and get up into 4th. So that is 1 position regained after our poor pit stop. Next car up ahead is our championship rival, who is apparently still our championship rival after season 1. It's Lewis Hamilton at the front though, and these guys are still going to keep going for each other and keep overtaking each other. The two Ps on the grid, Piastri and Perez. This time it's Piastri getting past Sergio Perez up into P1. And now we are right behind Hamilton. Look how close we are. We followed him so closely through that corner there. And we're going to sense a move here up the inside. They take a very wide line through that corner I always take quite a bit of a tighter line. We're going to try and go around the outside of him. He's holding on a little bit there, but in the end cannot quite deal with the pace we have. We then go a little bit wide out of the next corner, but thankfully we're going to keep the position. Up ahead of us at that same point, Perez and Piastri fighting once again. This time Perez gets past, or I think he might have defended the position there actually. Either or, Perez is now up into the lead, but a couple of laps later and Piastri's going back at him again. We were actually having a little bit of a look at Piastri there, but Piastri ended up going for the move on Perez and making it stick, so he's now back up into P1 again. And we're now in third place, which is a very good place to be at this point in time, as Perez goes for the move on Piastri up into the lead of this race. We're sensing a move on Piastri. He's now not going to have DRS because he was leading at the detection point, so it should be a pretty easy breeze past Piastri up into second place. And it is now a McLaren 1-2 with Sergio Perez leading the way, but we're going to make that change very quickly as we go round the outside of our new teammate and retake the lead after the poor pit stop. It was about a 4.5 second pit stop, so a good two seconds longer than it should have been. We're now back up into the lead once again. George Russell and Alex Albon now fighting it out after being overtaken by Verstappen. Russell gets himself past Albon. Russell definitely not having as good of a race as Hamilton. He's a long way back from his teammate, but yeah, he's managed to get at least past Albon on the final lap, and we are defending for our life against Perez, who manages to get alongside us, but we're going to fight for all our worth to try and keep this lead. We're very low on ERS. We're just using as much as we can, defending as harsh as we can. We go to the right, make sure that he doesn't get the move late on the brakes into this corner, and I think we've done all that we need to do to secure the win, to secure another win in Australia. We won here in Season 1, the only race we won in Season 1. And we're going to come out of the final corner and we're going to win the Australian Grand Prix once again and start Season 2 and start our campaign with McLaren on a high. We win the Australian Grand Prix.
Ah, fantastic drive. That's just fantastic. Amazing. You deserve that race win. Well done, mate.
It is definitely a good day to be a McLaren driver. It's a 1-2 for the team. What a result. What a start to this season.
A great race then, and a fantastic victory here at Albert Park.
Well, they kept us guessing during pre-season testing. We all wondered who it was going to be, and to have them drawn out here today, that they are the ones to beat, just goes to show that all the work they put in has really counted.
Our drivers are making their way out for the podium celebrations, and it's going to be McLaren picking up the winner's trophy. Congratulations to the entire team for that fantastic performance.
Yeah, such a great start to this season for our new team. A 1-2 finish, pushed right to the end. It was made difficult for us with that poor pit stop, but in the end we came through. We had quite a harsh defense at the end there, but there was no contact, there was no shoving off the road, and we managed to take the win here in Australia. Once again, we're now 2 for 2 in Australia. We need to win another race that isn't Australia. That would be great. So we're going to start the season ahead of the championship, which is very exciting. Oscar Piastri comes home for P3, the pole man, and of course the fellow Australian. I live in Australia, but I go by the English flag, because that's where I was born. But yeah, the Aussie, the home driver, comes home at least on the podium, so he's going to be disappointed that he didn't win, but at least being on the podium is a good start to his season with Aston Martin. Hamilton very good there in P4, and Lando Norris comfortably beating his new teammate of Max Verstappen for P5, and McLaren have a humongous lead in the Constructors' Championship after one round, 44 points to 16 for Mercedes and Red Bull, then Aston Martin with 15, Ferrari only 8, 2 points for Williams, so a great start to their 2025 campaign, and 1 point for RB. But anyway, that's going to be it for this video, guys. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed, please go ahead, like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.